Ohio State and Iowa, the first real matchup. Some people, at least that's I think what we're going to say, that Ohio State has faced this season. Joe, when you look at Ohio State versus Iowa, how you see this game playing out?
Yeah, I really truly believe that Ohio State has no reason to doubt that they're going to win this football game. This is just another opportunity, and the earliest opportunity to establish who you are in this overall landscape. And next week is going to be the big one when they play Oregon. That is going to be the big game that we're going to be talking about and is going to have massive implications on the Big Ten championship conversation. Ohio State, we know who they are. They are loaded front to back. Their offensive line has been a tinge inconsistent. I think Michigan State, some of those deficiencies we saw a little bit, but their receiving room is loaded. The running back room is loaded. Their defensive line is loaded. Their linebacker room, their secondary, it is loaded. They're stepping into a matchup with an Iowa team that has a really good secondary and a pretty good run defense. Sebastian Castro, Jamari Harris are two of the better defensive backs in the country, and they're very, very good at stepping up and stopping and coming down and making plays and not allowing anything after the catch. So I think that defense always consistently well coached. If you're not careful, they're just like we talked about with Cal earlier. They will turn you over.
Joe, I disagree with their secondary.
They've got multiple. They've got 3 NFL guys in their secondary.
Well, then they're not playing like it.
They gave up a couple big gains against Iowa State, and that's what disrupts.
This is Iowa State on steroids.
Blake, they're averaging 140. Well, I'm not saying that they're going to show up and they're going to completely shut down the Ohio State offense. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that this is going to be one of the better secondaries you see. They're allowing 147 pass yards per game. That's one of the best in the country.
It's not one of the best in the country. They're 69th in the country in passing yards allowed.
There's 60 teams better than 147 pass yards per game.
I mean, they're 69th in the country in passing yards allowed. Go to NCAA.com and check it out. Go to passing yards allowed and look at them. They're 69th in the country in passing yards.
That's a ridiculously good number.
But Rocco Becht and Iowa State went into Iowa, okay, and were able to throw the football around, Joe. I mean, I think it's the biggest weakness and separation at the current moment. I really do think Ohio State can go in there and throw the ball around at will if they needed to.
This isn't accurate because Iowa's team site says a completely different number than this.
Well, NCAA matches it up every single day, Joe. I mean, I don't know how to say. I don't know how else to grade that. So I mean, I look at Ohio State and say, when I'm looking at their wide receiver room, what they've done in the passing game versus what I saw an Iowa State team do against Iowa.
I'm looking at the wrong number. Ignore me when I made that statement.
Okay. That's my point. It's the biggest separation on this board. What Ohio State wide receivers versus this DB room. Joe, I think that there's going to be a little bit of a battle in the trenches that nobody wants to talk about. Like, for example, Iowa is 4th in the country in run defense. Joe, their front seven has been stout. And I think Ohio State can do some things in the running game. Not saying that they can, even though I think they might have a little bit of a guard issue or an interior O-line issue. Not big, just not as talented as maybe you would think at Ohio State. That wide receiver room is going to eat. Because I saw Rocco Becht in the Iowa State team do some things that Ohio State can do plus some. And if I'm Iowa, Joe, I think when we look at this could be I don't want to say the Will Howard coming out party. I don't want to say it like that. This can be the coming out party that we see for some of these young wide receivers. What does Emeka Egbuka look like? Joe, I'm telling you, it's the biggest separation from team to team is that wide receiver room versus DB room. And I would bring it to you.
I think you're completely. Look, I know that the stats don't totally play into this. I think you're completely underplaying the talent that they have in that secondary.
It's not about the stats. It's about going back and watching Iowa State do something that I think that Ohio State can completely and 100%.
No, they absolutely can. I'm not saying that secondary is better than the Ohio State receiving room. I think that's insane to say, but you're making it seem like they've got a bunch of bums running around out there at secondary.
No, I'm not. But no, I don't. But here's what I do look at. I look at that Iowa State game and say to myself, Jalen Noel, 5 catches, 133 yards.
One of those was off of one long reception.
I don't give two Rudy Poos. I hate the analogy. I loathe the analogy. If you take the big catch away,
but that's not what I'm doing though. That's not what I'm doing. He broke a tackle. He had a big touchdown reception in that game.
Okay.
His production in that game requires context. 7
other people caught passes. Jaden Higgins had 8 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown. Joe, I think what people are not recognizing at the current moment, which is going to come to pass, that secondary has some things that they really got to take care of, especially on the opposite side of the boundary. On the top side of the boundary, they have a massive issue. Joe, think about this. I saw this from PFF today. Did you know that they're giving up 72% completion on the right or the left far boundary? 72%. Who have they played that they should be giving that up to?
How many passing attempts have been thrown to that area, though?
37.
I don't know. I don't completely agree with this notion that, again, it feels like you're trying to make them out to be like they're like a
I just think that
group in the Big Ten.
Let me get back to that point.
Okay.
I think that this Ohio State wide receiver room, Joe, has the makings and markings of one of the best that we've seen in a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
And so very quickly, that's where I think that this game is. Joe, I'm going to be real with you. They better play time of possession and keep away. They better. Because if they don't, buddy, they're going to light your ass up. They're going to light your ass up like a Christmas tree on Christmas Eve, and Santa Claus is coming.
That was the point that I was trying to make, is that this secondary has a bunch of NFL guys in it, and that this Ohio State offense is going to have as productive a day as we have seen. If they have as good of a performance as we can expect from them week in and week out, that is ultimately a sign of optimism for Ohio State fans to point to and to continue to point to. One thing that I was really impressed by, Carnell Tate was starting to emerge a little bit more as an option within that offense, and he's that third, sometimes fourth guy. They have been able to turn to so many different faces in that receiving room, and that is what's making them so truly great. So if you have a big game against a team that we know is consistently very, very well coached, that is going to tackle, that's not going to allow you to produce after the catch, that has guys like Xavier Nwamka and Sebastian Castro and Jamari Harris, who all three of those guys are going to go on to play in the NFL and likely will all get drafted. If you have a big game, then we can start to talk about and reiterate all the hype that they got in the preseason.
I think they're about to live up to it, man. And you know what?
I don't disagree.
Well, here's another thing too. The reason they got to go full Michigan. Caden McNamara against Iowa State, man. He was 13 of 29 for 99 yards and 2 picks. If you do that against Ohio State, you're in deep doo-doo.
Well, you can't go full Michigan because Cade McNamara is like 5'11", 6
Well,
foot.
you better go triple option, split T. You better do something. Look, Caleb Johnson is a beast. Joe, they're top 10 in the country in rushing offense. I get what they're doing. This is not a match. Styles make fights. And this style of fight is not built for Iowa, man. I think, look, I'm not going to be gun shy because last week I came out here and said Ole Miss might roll over Kentucky, and it didn't happen that way. I'm not going to be gun shy in this one. I think Ohio State is not going to look ahead. I think they know the challenge because they've played these guys in the Big Ten. They've seen these guys in the Big Ten championship. They're not going to look forward. I don't believe that. Now, here's what I will say. The one thing that does scare me for Ohio State, they have an issue at guard. And I know.
Well, so we need to clarify here. It's the right guard. The right guard has been the weakness. Donovan Jackson's not a bad guard. He's going to play in the NFL.
Not. You're right. I apologize. Their right guard has been an issue. If there's any DC in the country that can scheme some things up to get to Will Howard, it's going to be this defense.
Yeah, and they have their defensive line's kind of left a lot to be desired. I fully broke down that Iowa State game film. They have some good athletes, but they're a team that, again, consistently finds a way to create pressures. They have been very stout against the run. Jay Higgins, who not really an NFL guy at linebacker, but is really, really good downhill and is just a player who racks up a million tackles. To that point, yeah, if they're smart enough, they're going to try and attack any weaknesses that they can find on that Ohio State offensive line. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.
I fully agree. I fully agree with that. Anything else in this game that you're wanting to pay attention to? I mean, because look, you have Ohio State going in and facing Oregon next week. Is there something that you want to see Ohio State do or not do before you go into that game?
No, I feel like I already know what this Ohio State team is. It just comes down to, do you see the weaker opponent where you have athletic advantages and do you dominate them? We've seen a lot of teams so far this year that have not taken advantage of those opportunities. A perfect example, Ole Miss. Kentucky's an equivalent of Iowa. Let's just be very real with ourselves
the
here.
SEC version. Let's go.
Of Iowa right now, because they play really good defense and they can't freaking move the ball on offense. But if you allow them to hang around, Iowa will find a way to upset you. Do you dominate them? Do you kick the crap out of them? Do we move on to Oregon and then we can live up to the expectations that we had? That's all it comes down to. See an easy opportunity to kick the ass of the opponent in front of you.
Let me tell you why I'm highly intrigued about this game. You've played Dookie Water State, Ash Cheek Tech, and Bourbon Streetwater University. Okay? I want to see you against an opponent with some form of a pulse. Michigan State does not have a pulse. And even though I think it has the potential to get ugly, I want to see them. Like, Joe, here's the truth. I feel like I don't know too much about them. I really don't, because I don't think that you've played a team that has any remote close of a chance of having a pulse on any side of the football. We're going to talk about Michigan State in just a moment against Oregon. I went back and watched that game today. Dookie Water. That team is not good. They got a lot that they have to rebuild after Mel Tucker left it and a crapshoot. I want to see what they look like against a really good defense and a really good defensive coordinator. That's why it's so intriguing to me, because I need to see you. I don't want to see you go up against Marshall. Right? Like, yeah. I need to see. And, Joe, we're going into week 6, by the way. Like, this isn't like we're – Joe.
We criticize them for their easy schedule, but at the same time, like, it is truly to their benefit. Like, you get all this time.
Fair, but do they know who – let me ask you this question. Does Ryan Day truly know how good his team is?
Yeah, I think he does.
No, I don't.
He's been around the team. We don't know. We have no idea. We don't know. Ryan Day knows how good his team is. He absolutely knows how good he is.
I don't think he knows. Let me tell you why. Because you got a lot of pieces from the portal in here. Quarterback included. Running back included. You have a freshman. Joe, how does this team react during adversity? Joe, if they get to Michigan and it's the first time that they're faced with adversity, how do they react? We don't know.
But they also have a ton of upperclassmen and experienced guys from last year that are on this team.
So does Georgia.
No, Alabama has way more than Georgia does.
They had
Ohio State. Ohio State has way more than Georgia does.
I'm about to say they had a secondary with 3 true freshmen. What you talking?
I meant to say Ohio State has more experience than Georgia does. So I think he knows his team, but
I think he needs to see his team get a little bit of adversity, see how they respond from it. So
let's try to fit in this Oregon game
here. I was getting to the 15-minute mark.
Okay. This video is sponsored by the online fitness training camp presented by Chris Gates Fitness. When I first started talking about Chris, about partnering with our show, not only was I excited to have a fitness sponsor for our pod, but more importantly, when I found out about how he can help people achieve their goals, I was even more bought in, because when the football season starts, it is so tough to stay on top of things and also to be able to enjoy yourself on Saturdays when it's game day. With Chris Gates Fitness's online training camp, you're going to be able to effectively stay focused, consistent, burn fat, build muscle, and do it with a like-minded community of individuals working towards the same thing. On top of this, you're going to be able to get direct coaching from Chris and the ability to ask him questions with an access to a live Q&A where you can get direct, personalized support from Chris himself. Don't wait any longer. If you're trying to get in shape during this fall and you want to be able to do it with the right support system, head on over to chrisgatesfitness.com/trainingcamp or click the link in the description. And you need to do it today because you can get the first month. Personal training's expensive, folks. The first month for only $10 when you use that code Ruffino Joe. Don't wait any longer. Head on over there.